Plugin of the week is the Waves VComp. Now, I'm pretty sure that I've done another video or two on this. I have one in my Waves plugins course. I shot a video on the V-Series plugins for the Waves channel. So the Waves YouTube channel, so you could go there to check out V-Series. I shot a series with the VEQ3, VEQ4, and VComp. And so you get to see me kind of use all of those together and putting together a mix. This is like a modeling of the Neve 2254 bus compressor, which was originally designed in the late 60s by Rupert Neve. And it became a classic for its kind of ballsy warmth, grittiness. And what is really amazing about this emulation right here that is done by Waves is that it has an incredible amount of tonal variation. So if you've watched the other videos, this is going to be different because I want to focus a little bit more on the character and how you kind of get some of the character that you want out of it. The first thing I'll always do is I'll almost always turn off the analog switcher. It's set to 100%, and on its own, it's fairly noisy, and you start to pile that up across multiple tracks, and that you get this accumulated hiss. It's interesting that they put these types of things in because it does bring some naturalness, but engineers were always trying to get rid of that noise. So I think when I was using gear like this, I would be doing whatever I could to get rid of the noise. So I would love to have had an analog switch on the original just to kind of get rid of that stuff. But, you know, that is part of the nature, so that's a personal choice. Now, this is a fixed threshold compressor. And there are versions of the 2254 that actually have a threshold on them. So if you look at that, there were a few different revisions of it. And so this is something that you will consider. So without getting into the history of it, I want to kind of get a little bit more into how this functionally works and why you would go to this and what you're going to get out of it. We'll start because everything with the way that this works, I can basically break down into three functional areas, and I'm going to focus primarily on the compressor and nothing else, and I'll explain what's up with the limiter in a minute. Primarily what I originally focus on, or what I look at initially, is three basic compression zones when working with this compressor. I work in the 0 to -3 area, the -3 to -6 area, or the -6 to -12 area. Okay? And then now, what I look for there is not necessarily the amount of compression, and I'll kind of explain that. What I'm looking for is the responsiveness of it. Where is the compressor responding best? Is it responding best here, here, or in here? Now, there's a relationship between this and the ratio. The ratio is kind of an interesting thing because as you raise the ratio here, you'll also get more gain. And this can be sort of a pain because as you're kind of going up, you would think normally when you increase the ratio, you would have less gain. But there's sort of almost like some kind of a makeup gain circuit that's sort of built into there that almost super compensates for what's going on that side. Now, this works in relationship also with the release characteristic. So, well, finishing up here, when you go to the ratios, essentially, if you want a lighter sound, you go to the 1.5 and 2 to 1. If you want sort of a medium kind of thickness out of it, you go to a 3.1. If you want to add warmth and grit and solidity to something, you go 4 to 1, 6 to 1. Now, so that works, and that can work within any of the three compression zones that I talked about here. What I found in general is that going beyond this, I haven't generally found the responsiveness that I'm looking for. When you use this compressor, it's not necessarily in any kind of compressor. It's not so much that you're looking for what it's limiting, what it's taking away, but what it's giving you back. And usually a compressor will give you some kind of a bounce, some kind of movement, and that's kind of primarily what we're looking for here. On the release characteristic, essentially you have 400 milliseconds, which is the fastest release, 800, 1.5, which is obviously a much slower release, and then an auto release, which is a multi-stage release. The auto release is good for things like vocals, or sometimes on basses, or instruments where you have a mixture of activity and sustain. Okay, so it can take something that in the nature of the attack, if you have something that has a fast, has sort of a hard attack and has a long sustain, and you want to bring out more of the sustain, setting an auto setting is really cool because it will allow, it's like a 5 millisecond or so attack time, so it will allow a bit of the initial transient to kind of cut through and then add like a nice length out, because that release time is going to be something like 5, 10 seconds or 20 seconds, some ridiculously long thing. Remember, it was originally designed as a broadcast limiter. So listening to it on a mix, let's just kind of listen to some basic. And let me go back to begin. I'm going to kind of work into a section where we got a little more activity here. All right, so this is without it. So what you really want to pay attention to here is the gain reduction needle. That's a really nice bounce. And you hear the way it kind of really pulls together the mix. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that, make a copy of that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what the same basic thing sounds like if I go more in the -3 to -6 range. Notice the activity is, although the gain reduction, obviously the range is different. So I'm going to try to balance the output. And then compare the two. Notice the difference in tonal character. So this has got like a grittier, warmer kind of characteristic. Now, if I take this down even further, if I take it, let me just kind of go back here for a second. So that was B. All right, and then on the A setup. So I kind of did that backwards from what I wanted. Now I'm going to go down to a lighter setting. I almost can't go low enough here, so... You can feel the density, right? Now this is on the auto release setting, so it's going to take like I'm going to make it dip out here a little bit. So what this is doing that's nice is it just kind of pumps the mix in an open kind of way. And this just fattens it right up. Okay, so now working from here, I can increase this characteristic, or maybe I don't want it to work on an auto setting. I can get it to kind of pump a little bit more. And I find that the auto setting works a little bit better for mixes in this kind of scenario. But what I want to work here is I just want to show you quickly, because of the kick drum is primarily driving this, what a faster pumping release. Now, it can work faster than this, but just kind of get a sense for what it is. And now let's go over here to the lighter setting. right? Nice pump to it. This is to the difference between this and the auto release. What you'll get with the auto release is a bit more RMS level. And this will sound a little bit more open. And even if we take that over to the other one and go back. That has a nice balance between that keeps like that the auto maybe brings in a little bit too much sustain and all of that, and so you could see just from this, we haven't even gotten into the ratio yet. So now when we start to mix in the ratio, so I like this probably the best, or these two are basically very good. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bypass this, and let's just kind of open up a whole other one here, and then just show you the difference here working with lighter ratios. So now if I go with this, all right, so I'm going to set this one up on the A, and I'm going to go the opposite. Try to match the amount of gain reduction here. So now we're going to listen to the difference between the one end of the scale, which is more open, and one that is thicker. So the difference between the 1.5 and the 6.1 with the same basic 400 millisecond and in this range here. You just feel the thickness that brings on the 6.1. And maybe on that one, I'm getting a little bit more compression, but notice the needle movement is not quite as rapid. All right, we go back. It says 6.1. I think I have a little bit more gain on that guy. So this is 1.5. So you can see how there's like this different characteristic tone that you can get. I mean, with just those simple variations, and we haven't even gone into all the variations of the different zones here, you could see how easy it is to work. And just if you break it down into those different basic categories, the 3 compression gain reduction zones, the primarily I would divide this up into 3 ratio zones, like 1.5 and 2 to 1 are very similar. 3 to 1 is like a medium. 4 to 1, 6 to 1 is obviously heading towards the more dense side. And then selecting the release characteristic. The auto release giving you more sustain RMS information, as the tendency is with the more gain reduction and higher ratio, and then more open sounding as you kind of bleed more towards the 400 faster release, giving you a little bit more open sound, as does the 1.5, as does going to the lower ratio area. And if you think of all those, you'll find some kind of magical area there that kind of works in between. And that is like the art of working with this. I've done so much stuff with this. I just absolutely love this compressor. And when you start getting on individual instruments and how you work, you could just do a whole mix like this and make this incredibly rich sounding mix. It's really powerful. Probably one of my favorite, compressors in terms of just it being so valuable. You have to be patient with it, though. It is a compressor that you have to use over and over and over and over again to really kind of master and get the guts out of, because it's just it's crazy cool, the options and the variations that you can get there. And you could just hear just from these examples how different all those different sections sound. Just so much variation. It's really awesome. All right. So anyway, hope that was a cool demonstration. The VComp by Waves, plugin of the week.